What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking myself out of some brand new makeup releases. One of my goals for 2023 is to try to spend a little bit less money on new releases and use the products that I actually have in my collection and just get some more use out of my makeup in general. And it's definitely a delicate balance as a YouTuber because I want to bring you guys the new releases and talk about new makeup, but at the same time, I also don't want to overwhelm you with new things and make you feel like you constantly have to buy new stuff, because that's not really what it's about. I think as makeup lovers, we always want to buy new things, and sometimes that's great, it's fine. And then other times it's maybe not such a good idea, especially if you already have a lot of products that you're just not really using. So that's the focus of today's video. And before we get started, if you're new here, hi, my name is Jen. I do a lot of drugstore content on this channel. I talk about dupes and just saving money on makeup in general. So if that interests you, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, so let's start with the first product that I had my eye on, and that is the Juvia's Place Candy Shop palette. This looked so pretty. First of all, I love Juvia's Place formula, but also I just thought that these colors really just made me think about spring, and I love all the rosy tones that are in this palette, and just that it's a little bit on the lighter side. A lot of Juvia's Place palettes can run a little bit deeper and darker, and I tend to love lighter colors for my skin tone, so this one really appealed to me. But when I stopped to actually think about it, it reminded me a lot of the Profusion Ethereal palette. This is one of my favorite palettes. I know I've talked about it so many times on my channel, and it's not an exact dupe of the Juvia's Place palette, but I think it does have a lot of the same tones that are in it, the rosy tones and the teal blue and some of the deeper blues as well, and just the overall vibe of the palette. And while the formula is not quite the same as Juvia's Place, I still love Profusion's formula. I think it's amazing, especially for a $10 palette. The mattes are pigmented and blend really well, and the shimmer shades in particular in this palette are gorgeous. Some of them have that more like rich buttery texture. Some of them are even cream shadows that really pop on your eyes. So this has been one of my favorite palettes, honestly the best 10 bucks I ever spent, because I use this so much. So looking at the Profusion palette and remembering just how much I love it and use it all the time, I really don't feel the need to buy the Juvia's Place anymore. Another palette that you might have, I actually don't have it, but if you have the ColourPop Malibu Barbie palette, I think that this one is also really similar to the Juvia's Place. It has some of the brighter pops of color as well as some of the lighter rosy tones as well. So I just wanted to mention that quickly if that is a palette that you already have. The next palette that I saw that's kind of been hyped up lately is the Morphe Ultra Lavender palette. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Morphe, this one grabbed my attention because I love purple eyeshadows. As you guys know, I wear purple a lot. And while it's not an entirely purple palette, even though it's called Ultra Lavender, there's a lot of neutrals in there, but it has enough purple to really catch my eye. But then I just tried to think about other palettes in my collection that I have that have more purples in them. And the first one that came to mind was one that I actually just repurchased recently, and that's the Norvina palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is actually what I'm wearing in the video today. I'm wearing both the pink and purple shades on my lid, and then this pink shade in my crease. I bought this because it's no longer carried at Sephora and Ulta, which tells me that it's likely being discontinued. And when Anastasia was having their Black Friday sale, I picked this one up just to have a backup, because the original one I had was the one that I bought back when it first came out. It was really old, and not that I feel like powder eyeshadows really expire per se, but they definitely start to lose their performance a little bit, and I felt like the shades were just not quite as creamy and they just weren't performing as well. So I ended up repurchasing this, and looking at it next to the Morphe palette, I feel like they're so similar. They both have the purples and pinks and also the warm neutrals as well. So there's just so much similarity going on. And also I love Anastasia's formula much better than I do Morphe, and the Morphe palette is just really big, and I feel like there's probably going to be some repeat shades in there, things that are a little too close. And I think the Norvina palette is just a little bit smaller and more curated, and it's just going to be easier for me to use and to make looks with it. So right away seeing this, I realized realized I did not need the new Morphe palette. Also, if you have the ColourPop All Amethyst palette, that's another really amazing purple palette that I do need to take out a little bit more often. I've used it a couple of times, but it's honestly stunning. Plus, it's a 9-pan palette, so again, you're not going to feel super overwhelmed with a ton of different color choices, and it really sticks to the purple theme. There really aren't too many neutrals in this one. And then another palette that you might have, I actually don't have this one, but it's the Norvina Pro Pigment palette volume 5. This is also really similar to the Morphe palette, and again, I just think the formula is probably going to be quite a bit better. I haven't had the best luck with Morphe palettes, and I might be in the minority there because I know that they are a really popular brand, and they're also very affordable as well. So I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. What are your thoughts on Morphe? Do you like them as a brand? Do you like their eyeshadows? I'm so curious. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And then moving on, we have the new Natasha Denona mini pastel palettes. This appealed to me because I love those more pastel colors again, but I realized pretty quickly that I do have a lot of palettes like this in my collection already that have very similar tones, so I don't need to go out and buy this one. The first one is the Small World palette from ColourPop. While not an exact dupe, it has the same kind of vibes going on. It has the minty green, the cornflower blue, the deeper blue, it has the pink, and it also has the gold. Now, the one in the Natasha Denona palette is a little bit more coppery gold, but still, I feel like you could probably get a lot of similar looks out of these two. I also own the larger version of the pastel palette from Natasha Denona, so I think comparing these side by side, there's a little bit of redundancy. It's not going to be exactly the same shades, but if I do feel like using these types of colors, I could definitely just open up my pastel palette and use that as well. And then I also have the Garden of Juvia's palette from Juvia's Place, and this one too is very similar to the original pastel palette from Natasha Denona. It has very similar colors and tones, and again, I love Juvia's formula. So just reminding myself that I have these 3 palettes in my collection already kind of satisfies that urge for me to have to go out and buy the new mini pastel palette. I just really need to get myself out of the habit of, oh, there's a new palette, let me go buy it, and not even think about what I have at home first. So I think that's just a really good rule of thumb. Too Faced also just recently released a stunning spring collection that is so beautiful, especially these blushes. I was so attracted to these when I first saw them. I love these fun, happy, bright pops of color. Again, it just makes me think of springtime. And they also claim to be more of a blurring formula, which I thought sounded really interesting. But thinking back, I do have some blushes in my collection, most of them drugstore, that actually do have that more matte blurring effect on your skin. And I just kind of pulled out some of the brighter shades that I have within those collections to kind of go with the colors of the Too Faced blushes. So one that I have that I really love is the Persona Bubble Blush. This one I'm wearing in the video today, and it's just the most beautiful, bright, hot pink, and Too Faced does have a color just like this, and this was the one that I was kind of most attracted to when I saw the picture of the Too Faced blushes, and I realized I have something so similar right here that I love. This formula is amazing, so this is a good one for sure. And then I also have some blushes from Joa, and these are the Air Light blushes, and they come in so many beautiful colors. Again, some brighter pops, and these do have a very blurring effect on your skin. And these are a Korean formula, and I think they're usually ahead of the trends over there, and then we slowly start to see brands over here kind of trickle in with some of the same concepts. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of the K-beauty brands already have been doing the blurring blushes for a while, and Too Faced is just kind of getting on board now. But these are absolutely beautiful and very affordable as well. And then I also pulled out 2 colors of my Flower Pots blushes from Flower Beauty. These are Wild Rose and Peach Primrose, and these are 2 of my favorite colors that I reach for all the time. Wild Rose is kind of similar to the Persona Bubble Blush, but it's just a little bit deeper and darker, but it's still that really bright pink. And then Peach Primrose is a beautiful pop of peach, and these are both some of my favorite blushes as well. So just seeing all of the amazing options that I already have right here makes me not as excited and feeling like I have to go out and buy the Too Faced ones. Maybe if they're on sale or something at some point, I might pick one up to try just to see if the formula is any different. But as far as those bright, fun colors go, I do feel like I have some really good options right here. Also, part of the new Too Faced collection is their Pinker Times Ahead palette, and this one also is really beautiful. It has the colors that I tend to gravitate toward, like those rosy tones again. It just gets me in the mood for spring. But then I think about how I've been been a little bit disappointed with Too Faced palettes lately. I don't feel like their formula is as good as it once was back in the day. Some of the newer palettes that I've purchased from them have shades that get hard pan or they don't pick up as easily as I'd like them to. So I do have some concerns about the formula. Plus, it sort of reminds me of the Essence Welcome to Miami palette. I think this one has a lot of the same tones, even if it's not an exact dupe. And Essence has really improved their formula lately, even if they're not the most pigmented shadows in the world. I actually tend to like a buildable shadow these days, and I don't have any of the same issues with the Essence shadows like the hard pan or not being able to pick up a shadow. Not to mention it's way more affordable, and if I happen to feel in the mood for a brighter eyeshadow look, which I don't wear that often, it makes more sense to just use the Essence palette I already have rather than spend a lot more money on the Too Faced one that I probably won't use that often. Another palette that looks kind of similar that I already have is the Control Alt Glam palette from ColourPop. This one, when you look at them side by side, they're almost identical. If you cover up the green shade in the Too Faced palette, they look so similar. And I just got this palette from ColourPop very recently, so I definitely just want to use it more and play with it a little bit because I loved the looks that I got out of it. So I just don't want it to go to waste. And I know that if I buy the Too Faced palette, this one is just going to sit around while I use that one. So I'm definitely going to keep this one out and in my rotation, especially as we head into springtime. I also saw on Trend Mood's page that Kosas is going to be coming out with some baked blushes. And you all know, if you've been around my channel for a while, how much I love baked blushes. So when I saw this post, I got super excited for a couple minutes, and then I was like, wait a minute, I have so many baked blushes that I love, especially from Laura Geller. So I pulled some of those out again, and I've been using them a lot lately. One of the things that was mentioned in the post about the Kosas blushes is that they have multi-dimensional color duos, and that's really how the Laura Geller ones are. They have these different swirled colors mixed in, and it gives such a multi-dimensional effect on your cheeks. And also the baked formula just looks so super smooth on your skin. It doesn't look powdery or cakey, and kind of gives you that blurred and airbrushed effect. So I love my Laura Geller blushes, and even though these are a little bit more on the expensive side, watch her website because she constantly has deals going on. I usually wait until they're 40% off and then I get another color. I don't think I've ever paid full price for one of her blushes, so you can definitely get them on a sale. And then another quick thing that I wanted to mention about Kosas too is that because they claim to be like a clean beauty brand, I find that a lot of the things that I get from them go bad quickly. So that's one of the reasons I actually stopped buying their products, because they're expensive enough already, and then if you're not getting the time out of them to be able to use a product up, it's honestly just not worth it for me. Oh, this next palette almost had me. This one is so cute. It's the Sweet Tarte Cravings palette from Tarte. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, I need that. It has the cutest theme. It has the little embossings in the powder, kind of looks like a box of chocolates. I loved it. But as I kind of looked at the colors that were in the palette, I was like, yeah, this isn't really super unique. I probably have these colors a million times over. So I started looking through my collection. I really didn't have to go that far because the Tarte Maneater After Dark palette is really similar to this one. They just came out with Maneater After Dark in the fall, and here they are coming out with something so similar already. Granted, it is a little bit smaller, so if the bigger palettes overwhelm you, then the Cravings palette might be a little bit more up your alley. But if you have Maneater After Dark already, I think you have a lot of the same colors. Even looking at their swatches, I couldn't find just plain swatches for the Maneater palette, but you can see the swatches that are kind of around it in this picture. And so many of these really rich, warm tones look like they match up almost perfectly. And I have hardly had a chance to even play with the Maneater After Dark palette yet, so I know that I don't need this new one, even though it's adorable. I also have the ColourPop Plush Like Me palette, and this one too looks really similar as far as the color story goes. Maybe not exact, but I think they're close enough, especially if you look at the swatches side by side. I think you could get very similar looks out of it, and the ColourPop Plush Like Me palette is one of my all-time favorites from ColourPop. And it's funny because I didn't initially buy it when it launched, but then they were having a 30% off sale, and I decided to just try it out and see how it was. And when I got it home and swatched it, I loved it so much more than I ever thought that I would. And I've been using it so much ever since. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. So that's one that I continue to get a lot of use out of, and I still want to keep on using it. And if I get this new Tarte palette, then the Plush Like Me is probably just going to be put to the side. So yeah, I just feel like that's another really unnecessary purchase for me. And then, we have the Hourglass Unlocked Satin Cream Lipsticks. So these say that they are supposed to be a comfortable, weightless formula. They say that they have full coverage and that they're a satin cream finish, very hydrating lipstick. And right away, the description actually reminded me of the new e.l.f. O-Face lipsticks, which are also a satin formula. They're really creamy and weightless. I just talked about these very recently in a dupes video, and I compared them to the NARS Audacious lipstick. And spoiler alert, if you haven't watched that, they are identical from the packaging to the shape of the bullet to the way that they apply and wear throughout the day. So they are an awesome new satin lipstick formula. And if anything, I'll probably just go out and get a few more colors of the e.l.f. lipsticks at $9 than whatever the price of the Hourglass lipsticks is going to be. I'm not sure if they're even out yet. I don't see a price here, but they're going to be expensive. This we know. And e.l.f. has just improved their formula so much from what their old satin lipsticks used to be. If you haven't tried the new O-Face one, despite the terrible name, give them a try if you love satin lipsticks, because I think you'll really enjoy them a lot. Another new lipstick that's coming out or might already be out is from Makeup Forever, and it's the Rouge Artist Velvet Nude Soft Matte Lipsticks. So I think this is a pretty easy decision for me because I don't really enjoy matte lipstick formulas very often. I feel like they are drying on my lips. At 45 years old, I do have some fine lines and wrinkles, and I feel like the matte lipsticks just tend to make those look worse and settle into them. So I do like something with a little bit of at least a satin finish, if not a glossy one. But if you do have your eye on these new ones, they actually sound a lot like the new lipsticks from L'Oreal. They say that they have hyaluronic acid in the formula, which the new L'Oreal ones do, and also the L'Oreal ones have that really velvety, very weightless feel that the Makeup Forever ones claim to have. So just some food for thought if you don't really have it in your budget for the Makeup Forever ones, but you thought they sounded good. Check out the L'Oreal ones. They are a little bit pricey for a drugstore lipstick, but definitely a lot cheaper than the Makeup Forever. And I think if you can grab the L'Oreal ones with a coupon at the drugstore or like on a sale or something, then that's even better. And then the next product that really caught my eye is from Urban Decay, and it's their Quickie 24-Hour Multi-Use Hydrating Full Coverage Concealer. That's another mouthful of a name. It says that it's a multi-use one-swipe full coverage concealer with a natural skin-like finish. And it does look like it has some pretty cool packaging. It has the doe foot applicator to apply it, and then you flip it over and it has a little buffing brush on the end. But if I'm being honest with myself, I'm probably not going to use the buffing brush because every time a product comes with a brush like that, I usually don't like it. I tend to just pat concealer in with my fingers. I feel like the warmth of my skin just kind of drives the product in a little bit better. It gives a more natural result, but I also do have a couple of concealer brushes that I like. So I feel like I probably wouldn't use that. And it's a $34 concealer. And when I really think about a full coverage concealer that looks totally skin-like, my Catrice True Skin is honestly tried and true. This is actually a waterproof formula. It lasts the entire day and it doesn't age my under eyes, even though it's more full coverage. So it's honestly magical. I have a lot of different concealers that are really lightweight in coverage and they're beautiful, and I use them a lot if I don't have darkness to hide. But like last night, for example, I got 5 hours of sleep because I'm getting hot flashes now and it's terrible. And yeah, I did have some darkness under there, and this covers it up without aging my under eyes. So even if the Urban Decay concealer is fantastic, I can't really see it being better than this one, because for me, this is the perfect full coverage concealer, and it's like $6 or $7 compared to what's this one going to be, $33. So I just sort of look at it as, is it really going to be that much better than this to justify the price? I'm guessing probably not. So those are the new releases that caught my eye for the moment. If you'd like to see this video become a weekly thing because there's constantly new makeup coming out, let me know. know, and I definitely could make this into a series. Like I said before, as a YouTuber, I am still always going to buy new makeup to review, but I just want to be a little bit more conscious of what I'm buying and why. I also do have a series here on my channel where I talk about duping new makeup releases, so if you'd like to check that one out, if you have some time, I'll put those right here on the screen so you can check those out next. I want to thank you all so much for spending part of your day here with me. As always, I appreciate it so much, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.